Hello, and welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger and
Kitten!
Kitten is behind the camera. Actually, we are all behind the camera because you guys are not seeing anything right now. I got the camera face down on the counter because, well, it is pretty late and nothing to see outside. It's not like you can see the tree uh, from the window. Although I always wonder, maybe one of you people can let me know, does it make a difference if we are looking out the window on a moonlit night? Like if I do one of these episodes at a full moon, that night was a full moon, would it make a difference? Can you guys even see the moonlight or starlight from the window? Hmm. Yeah, kind of a interesting thing to ponder about. Um, Today we are going to talk about lending money. It's not a complicated topic. Um, I think most of us have had friends, family members, even sometimes people we don't even know all that well, trying to borrow money from us. Um, I know Kitten and I both definitely had a lot of people, you know, not 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 to make it sound like we are super rich or anything. I mean, I'm definitely not. Most of the time, it's not that I don't want to lend money to them, it's just I don't have the money to lend to them. But um, lending money is a tricky thing because I don't know how many of you have experienced this before. When the person is trying to borrow money from you, they are like it's almost like you got the superior power. You are at the advantage. You have the advantage, and it's a little bit of a power trip. And they are so nice to you, and so they keep their head down and voice low, and ask if you ask if they can borrow some money. And not to say that we get off on that or anything, but there's definitely that power dynamic when it's someone else trying to borrow money from you, and you don't feel awkward. They feel awkward, right? But how many of you uh, have experienced this? When it's come time to get your money back, and they pretend that they don't remember it, and you are forced into having to remind them that they owe you money, and things get so awkward for you that somehow you feel that you're in the wrong. Like you ask for your own money back, you feel you're in the wrong. You feel like you're an asshole because you dare mention that $20 that they owe you. Have you experienced that, Kitten?
Yes,
Yeah,
I don't care for that. People reversing the guilt and awkwardness.
yeah. It's such an awkward situation. I always feel so uncomfortable if I have to remind someone to uh, give me money back. Actually, before we go any further with this video, let me give you guys one of my little little trick that work actually pretty good. Now, the uh, the prereq is this will only work if the person you're dealing with is a good person. Right? If the person you're dealing with is not a good person, then it doesn't matter how you go about it, you most likely won't get your money back. But if it's a good friend who's just forgetful, or um, maybe they are having issues, maybe they have in a hard place where they really can't pay you back, you know, that's a different kind of matter. But to make it less awkward, for me anyway, to make it less awkward, a lot of time rather than I say, hey George, uh, um, remember that $20? You you uh, it's really awkward to bring that up. So I would rather do it like, hey George, I'm having a bit of a hard time. Do you mind? Can you stiff me 20 bucks? Yeah, if they are good people, if they're a good friend, they'll get what you're saying. Uh, but rather than asking them to pay you back, you say, hey, can I borrow 20 from you? Can you? Do you have 20? This way it's a lot. I find anyway, for in my experience, it's a lot less awkward for both sides. Uh, Another common little trick that I will do, leading up to trying to ask for my money back, is I will start hinting. When I talk to the person, I'll start hinting. And again, I shouldn't have to do this, right? Like, what is my money? You owe me money. I should be able to just walk up to you and say, "Hey, you asshole, you owe me 30 bucks." But no, a lot of the time we don't feel comfortable doing that. So quite often, what I'll do is I'll start dropping hints. Uh, for example, one time someone owed me money and it wasn't like a small number, it was like 250 bucks. And they were going to pay me back at the beginning of the next month, but uh, they forgot. Uh, well, they say they forgot anyway. Um, so what I started doing was when the beginning of the month came and went, I didn't see my money back. I started dropping little hints in our conversation. So, for example, the person would say, hey, how are you doing? I said, well, God, I'm doing okay, but it's crazy how expensive things are. I was grocery shopping yesterday, and you know what? It came down. I just bought a few things, and it came to 250 bucks. You imagine that? Like, I started dropping little hints like that, and luckily this person was a good friend, and he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I still need to pay you back, don't I?" "Oh, okay, I'll e-transfer you the money." And that very afternoon, I got my money back. Right? So there's a couple of these little ways to go about it that to make things uh, a little bit less awkward for both sides. I know there are a lot of people that say, well, why can't you just come out and say, hey, where's my money? Well, you can, but sometimes for some reason it just doesn't feel very comfortable doing that. Now, I was brought up by a very wise woman who had a lot of little common sense, commonplace wisdoms, folk wisdoms. I talked about her before, my nanny, Maru. And one of the things she drilled into me from an early age, actually, was that when someone asks you for money, you either say no, or if you say yes, be prepared to give it to them. Be okay to give it to them. Only say yes if you're okay giving that money away. Otherwise, you might as well say no. Okay? We're going to come back and sort of look at these in a little bit. But first, I want to tell you guys a little interesting little story. Uh, this I debated with myself to reserve this for Wisdom Wednesday, but then I said, oh, what the heck, I have so many materials for Wisdom Wednesday, and this is related to what we're talking about today, the lending of money. Did you guys know that there is actually a temple, a special temple that still exists today in various cities, provinces, countryside in China and Taiwan. And this temple is called 现实报庙. You don't have to remember that. You don't have to memorize that. 现实报庙, because most likely you guys will not come across these unless you really take a deep tour of Taiwan and China. These are very small chapels and temples and scattered throughout the countryside. And unfortunately, they have become far and few in between, but they're still there. What are these 现实报庙? They roughly translate as the temples of immediate karma. And the only function these temples have in existing is to remind people to pay money back. The story goes that 300 or so ago in Shandong, China, there was a Mr. Li. A Mr. Li, a very rich man, millionaire, multi-millionaire, have a lot of land, a lot of houses, a lot of wives. You name it, he had it. Mr. Li had a good friend by the name of Mr. Hu. I'm not saying like, no, who? But no, H-U. Now, Mr. Hu. Mr. Hu was not nearly as rich as Mr. Li, but Mr. Hu was a businessman. He always had some kind of enterprise going on, business ventures, buying this, selling that, which means he always needed money. And sometimes, quite often, in fact, when Mr. Hu wanted to uh, uh, bring in some new products or go into a new venture, he would find himself really short on cash, and he would borrow money from Mr. Li. This went on for years and years. Every time he borrowed some, he paid Mr. Li back, and it was fine. Everything was fine between them. But one time, Mr. Hu needed to go to another province to conduct business, so he borrowed $1,000 from Mr. Li. And several months, almost a whole year went by, and Mr. Li never got the money back. So Mr. Li went to Mr. Hu's house and said, "Hey, uh, that $1,000 you borrowed from me. When do you think that you can start paying me back?" Now, maybe Mr. Hu didn't have the money at that time, or maybe Mr. Hu really forgot, or maybe Mr. Hu just decided, $1,000, that's a lot of money. Maybe he didn't want to pay Mr. Li back, but he said to Mr. Li, "Oh, the $1,000, oh, that was years ago. That was 2 or 3 years ago. I paid you back already." Well, because like I said, they were good friends. Like they've been friends for a long time. So Mr. Li never even got a receipt when he lent the $1,000 to Mr. Hu. So when Mr. Hu said, "Oh, I paid you back already," Mr. Li just shook his head like, "Okay, dude, whatever." He went home. He didn't even bother to argue. I mean, like I said, Mr. Li is a like multi-millionaire. $1,000 nothing to him. Right? And he just went. He went home, and he said, "Well, Mr. Hu is being a bit of a dick. Uh, you know, but that's whatever. We've been friends for so long." Um, Everything was quiet between the two of them for several months, and then suddenly, one night, Mr. Li went to bed, and he had a vivid dream. In his dream, Mr. Hu came up to him and kneeled down at his bedside. Mr. Hu looked pale, like really, really sick. And Mr. Hu said to Mr. Li in his dream, "I'm here to repay you. I'm here to pay back the $1,000." And then Mr. Li woke up. And just as he woke up, his servant came to knock on his bedroom door, and he said, "Mr. Li, good news. One of our horses, one of your favorite horses, just had a new foal, just gave birth to a new baby horse, new foal." Mr. Li thought about his dream and thought about the sudden birth of this new young horse. And he said to the servant, "Quickly, go out there, kill the new baby, kill the baby horse." And the servant was like, "What? Uh, did I hear you correctly? You want me to what? The new horse?" And Mr. Li said, "Don't ask questions. Go, 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 kill the new baby horse." So the servant went out there, yeah, killed the new
Oh
foal.
my goodness.
A few days later, Mr. Hu, in Rio this time, Mr. Hu came to visit Mr. Li with $1,000 in his pocket, and he said, I come to pay you back this money. It was my fault. Uh, I didn't pay you back. I want you have to take it. I came to pay you back. And Mr. Lee is like, oh, okay. I mean, I I kind of already forgotten about that. But like, what got you suddenly wanting to pay me back? And Mr. Hu said to Mr. Lee, he said, a couple of weeks ago, I had a dream. I went to bed and I had a dream that because that the judge stood in front of my bed. I was at judgment, and the judge said to me, "Because you cheated your good friend out of $1,000, you are going to die and turn. You are going to reincarnate into a horse, and you are going to serve him for your entire lifetime." And then after I woke up from that dream, a couple of days later, I got super, super sick. Mr. Hu was saying that I got super, super sick. And I was about to die. I knew I was going to die. I was so sick. And just as I was laying in bed, like barely alive, I was prepared to die, I had another dream. In my dream, I did become a horse in your stable, and then you had your servant kill me, kill the horse, so I could get my spirit back. So that's why I can stand here today, because if you didn't kill that horse, I would be dead. My spirit would be inside that horse. So you saved me from a fate like that. I have to pay you back your money. Mr. Lee thought this was amazing, this fantastic, and he said, well, you know what? Keep it, keep the money. It's okay. Well, no, we've been friends for a long time. It's okay. If you really had a hard time, it's fine. Mr. Hu said, no, 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 no. And I can't keep this money. If I keep this money, I'm going to turn into a freaking horse and serve you for my entire next lifetime. And Mr. Lee said, no, no, it's okay, dude. It's okay. Take money home. Well, long story short, the two of them got into this big argument. Mr. Hu wanted to give the money back. Mr. Lee didn't want the money. And as crazy as it sounds, Mr. Hu took Mr. Lee to court because Mr. Lee wouldn't let him pay the money back. So the two of them went to the magistrate, and Mr. Hu said to the magistrate, "Look, I owe this guy money, and the gods told me that if I don't pay him back, I'm going to turn into a horse and serve him for the rest of my life. And now he won't take the money back. I want to sue him." Mr. Lee was like, "No, no, we've been friends for a long time. It's okay. I don't want that money. I don't want it anymore." And the magistrate said, "Oh, this is an interesting case that you guys present me with, and your friendship is very touching, and this whole incident just serves to remind everybody that when you owe money, you should always pay back. So tell you what, Mr. Hu, this just put your $1,000 here, like since Mr. Lee doesn't want it, so leave it here with me. I will throw in $1,000 of my own. And Mr. Lee, since you're so rich, why don't you uh, bring $1,000? So uh, between the three of us, we'll have $3,000, and we'll build a temple to honor this momentous friendship. And this temple will be called the Temple of Immediate Karma. So everybody will understand that karma is not always next lifetime or 100 years later. Sometimes if you owe people money, the karma might be quite immediate. Uh, and this really took off. The Temple of Immediate Karma became so popular that once upon a time, 300 or so years ago, you could see this temple almost everywhere in China. Um, And most of the time, the temple is just there as a reminder for people to do good deed and to repay favors. Um, Now, going back to reality, we're talking about lending money. Like I said, uh, the wisdom that was imparted on me very early on was you either just say no, or if you say yes, be prepared to give it to them. Uh, Let's look at saying no. There's two ways to look at this, okay? Two ways of looking at saying no. A lot of people don't want to say no because they feel that is what makes them feel look bad, or they feel that they might lose a friend if they say no. Let's take lose a friend. If you say no and you lose a friend, most likely, what I can tell you is most likely, even if you said yes, you're still going to lose that friend when they don't want to pay you back. And so you might as well lose this friend now by saying no. You save yourself some money, right? If a friend is going to get offended and be and ditch you as a friend because you say no, then you don't need a friend like that. It's not a, this is not a real friend. This is a leech, a parasite, and you don't need someone like that. So it's good to find out about that early on. Saying no, lose a friend, fine, no problem. Another way to approach this is just because you say no to them trying to borrow money doesn't mean that you don't help them. I want to talk about a real person, a real example. Uh, a lot of you have heard of uh, Chow Yun Fat. Uh, supposedly, Kitten's dad looked like Chow Yun Fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, yeah. You guys remember Johnny Fat from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? Good-looking Chinaman. Well, he's Cantonese, but anyway, um, I'm not going to judge him for that. Chow Yun Fat, very popular, very famous, very rich. Chow Yun Fat has also been known throughout the Chinese movie circle and entertainment circle as one of the uh, best person. He is very willing to help people. However, Chow Yun Fat has this unwritten rule that he will not lend money. He will not lend money. But despite that, he still has a great reputation. A lot of people love him in his circle of friends. Why is that? Because he doesn't just turn you down and then watch you suffer. He usually will find other ways to help you. Some of you have heard of the right now still very immensely popular Chinese singer by the name of Andy Lau. Andy Lau is once upon a time in the 90s, he was said to be one of the four greatest singers in Hong Kong, Taiwan. But a lot of people don't realize that before he became famous, Andy Lau got so broke. He was so broke. He couldn't even afford to hardly eat. He had such bad luck for quite a long stretch. And Andy Lau went to Chow Yun Fat and wanted to borrow money. And Chow Yun Fat said, "Tell you what, I don't lend money to people, but I just got called to play this role in the movie. I'm willing to turn them down and recommend you for the role." And that basically gave Andy Lau the boost he needed to get into the movie industry. So a lot of roles that Andy Lau ended up playing in the movies like secret agents and police officers and a lot of those really badass kung fu roles Andy Lau got into. Those roles were meant for Chow Yun Fat. but Chow Yun-fat turned them down and uh, suggested them to contact Andy Lau instead. That was his way of helping Andy Lau. Rather than giving him the money, lending him money, he gave him opportunity. There's another super popular Cantonese actor by the name of Wu Mengda. We just call him Wu. Wu, unfortunately, got into a bit of a bind. He was addicted to gambling, and he ran up a gambling debt of over $300,000. This
Whew.
this was back in the 90s.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Back in the 90s, $300,000 is like, it's an astronomical amount of money today. And Umeda was getting to the point where he was thinking about suicide. He couldn't handle this gambling debt. So again, he went to his good friend Chow Yun Fat. They've been friends for over 20 years, and he begged Chow Yun Fat, "Can you give me some money to pay this off?" Chow Yun Fat said no. No, sorry, dude. You know my rule. I don't lend money. You have to help yourself on this one. Wu was heartbroken. He went home and almost killed himself. He felt abandoned by his best friend, and he felt that no one he could turn to. Next day, he got a call from one of the biggest movie agents and asked if he would star in the lead role in the movie. And it wasn't until years later that he found out it was Chow Yun Fat that recommended him for that role.
Oh, that's
And even today, Wu, when interviewed, he still mentioned this. He said he's so thankful for Chow Yun Fat for what he did. Because if Chow Yun Fat said, here, take the money, I'll lend it to you, then most likely Wu would continue to gamble. Because, hey, I got a rich friend. If I have another debt, I'll just borrow some more. But because he actually got the role and had to work hard to earn that money, he was able to get out of his gambling addiction. So this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. It's okay to say no when people want money, uh, but you can always find other ways to help them. Kitten and I both kind of have this uh, rule, I guess you can say, uh, that if homeless people want money from us, we generally will say no, but we have no problem buying them a meal. You know, uh, we have no problem getting them some milk or coffee, whatever they need. No, but we're not going to say yes and hand the money over because you never know. You might be helping their drug addiction. You might be helping them to get more cheap wine and stuff like that. So that is kind of one of our own rule around that. Um, a lot of time, if people approach me to want to borrow money, I generally speaking, I will say no. But I will also try to find out, okay, what is the situation? What can I do to make the situation a bit better? Uh, 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 to fix the situation? Can I help them find work? Can I help them find a cheaper place to live? Can I help them fix their budget so they don't run into this situation again? Uh, no, it's not as immediately gratifying as me lending you money, but I believe that in the long term, it's a better solution to help them uh, find ways to not get into this situation again. Um, Now, in cases of really, really good friend, people who you just like a really, really good friend, and like in cases that where you do have extra money, then you can also consider the second route. I'll say yes, and if you give it back to me, great. If you don't give it back to me, then that's okay, fine. Be like Mr. Lee. When Mr. Hu said I paid you back already, Mr. Lee didn't argue with him. He didn't yell at him or anything. He just said, "Oh, Okay, dude, whatever. I went home. Because like to a millionaire like Mr. Lee, that $1,000 wasn't anything. So that to him, there's no point uh, hurting a friendship over that. So sometimes, if you feel that $5, $10, hey, whatever, it's just sitting in my pocket, not doing anything, then it is okay to say yes. It's even okay to ask them to pay it back because you don't want them to feel that they can come to you for free money all the time. But in the end, if you don't get it back, if in your head you have already decided that I'm okay without this money, then it's not going to hurt your feeling when they don't give it back to you. So a lot of time when I do say yes, when I lend people money, on those rare occasions where I say yes, that usually means that's money that I don't really need anyway, and I'm okay without it. I'm okay not getting it back. Um, I hope my friends that owe me money don't watch this episode. Anyway, do I have any friends that owe me money? I don't know. I know my mom owed me money, but I also know she doesn't watch my videos, so I'm fine. Um, Honestly, lending money is such a tricky situation. A lot of people don't uh, realize how much of a minefield it is. Years ago, I had a friend who I'm not going to give too much details, but this friend uh, was borrowing money from me almost pretty much every month, and she would always pay back. She would borrow money at the beginning of the month, pay it back at the end of the month, and at the beginning of next month she had to borrow the money again. After a while, I started to feel like an ATM machine. Like what? Like this sounds so ridiculous, but I actually got to the point where if she borrowed 200 from me and she paid back the 200, I just leave that 200 in my drawer. And next month she, hey Johnny, can I? Oh yeah, here's the 200. Here, I just like take it out. Here you go. Like I was getting to the point where I was prepared to have that 200 sitting around the house. And this was not a good feeling because yeah, okay, you pay me back the money, but what good is that going to do me? I can never use it because I am scared that the moment I spend it, you're going to need 200. Um, so after a few months of this going on, and during these few months, uh, we were pretty good friends. She was like inviting me to all kinds of house parties and gatherings, Christmas parties, and all that stuff, and bringing food, like she making food for me and stuff like that. Like and uh, uh, we were pretty good friends until finally I said, you know what, we need to put a stop to this because like there's it's just no point for me to keep lending out money every month, and I might as well just give it to her. So I had a talk with her. I said, hey, I understand things are really tough with you, but I need you to understand that being a disabled person, things are very tough for me too. And sometimes when you want to borrow money, if it's 20, 30, no problem. Yeah, but this 200, $300 every month, it's becoming problematic. It's like I got 200, $300 locked up every month I can't access. Okay, so I'm going to just say no from this point on. Okay, I hope you understand, but this is the deal. Like this is what's going to happen. No more. From that day forward, I have not seen her ever again.
Wow.
Yeah, just like there's no argument, no fight. Just like we had to talk, and then from that day forward, I never saw her ever again. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking, well, darn it, maybe I should have just said no from the very beginning and saved me a lot of effort. Uh, yeah. So sometimes, you think you don't want to say no because you're afraid to offend the other person. But in the long run, if they're going to be offended, you might as well offend them now to save yourself some headaches. Thank you for checking out today's episode, and I hope those of you that have outstanding loans to people get your money back and get to keep your friends, and those of you that have uh, issues with people trying to borrow money from you, I hope after today's episode I'll give you a little bit more to go off of. Kitten and I will be back either tomorrow, either next day, either the day after, who knows? We'll be back sometime. Bye.
Bye.